English. It's everywhere. More than 1.5 billion people speak it all over the world. The story of English is all about change. It's a story of borrowing words, changing them, and making them new. We're going on a trip through time to explore English. Come along on this awesome language adventure. To understand where English came from, we need to go back a long, long time ago. Our language journey starts with a really old language called Proto-Indo-European. About 2,500 years ago, one part of the Indo-European language family branched off. These were the Proto-Germanic tribes, and they lived in Northern Europe. When the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes came to Britain, their languages mixed together to make Old English. Old English is what English is built on. Old English, the mix of Anglo-Saxon languages, was the main language in England for a long time. It was a big part of how the Anglo-Saxons lived, what they believed, and what they did every day. The year 1066 changed everything for England and the English language. The Norman Conquest changed the government, society, and even the language. After the Norman Conquest, a new kind of English showed up, Middle English. English and French slowly mixed together during this time. In the late 1400s, something amazing happened that changed how people communicated the printing press. William Caxton brought it to England in 1476. The late 1500s and early 1600s were a great time for English writing. William Shakespeare and the people who translated the King James Bible were super important. The Great Vowel Shift was a big change in how words sounded. It changed how long vowels were pronounced, which changed how English sounded. As the 1700s began, English was ready to take over the world. The language had evolved significantly over the centuries, absorbing influences from Latin, French, and other languages. This evolution made English a versatile and adaptable language, capable of expressing complex ideas and concepts. After changing for many years, it was ready to spread beyond England, thanks to the British Empire. The empire's vast reach meant that English was introduced to diverse cultures and regions, from the Americas to Asia and Africa. British ships sailed everywhere, exploring, making colonies, and building businesses. These ships were not just vessels of trade, but also carriers of the English language, bringing it to new shores and integrating it into local communities. This spread English all over the world. In colonial cities, English became the lingua franca, facilitating communication between people of different native languages and fostering a sense of unity within the empire. From India to America, English became the language of business, government, and culture. It was used in administrative documents, legal proceedings, and educational institutions. embedding itself deeply into the fabric of society. But English didn't just replace other languages. It adapted and evolved, incorporating words and phrases from the local languages it encountered. This blending enriched English, making it a more expressive and nuanced language. Sometimes it mixed with them, borrowing words and changing to fit in. This process of linguistic exchange created a dynamic and ever-evolving language that could reflect the diverse experiences of its speakers. The British Empire had a big impact on English, making it a global language. Through diplomacy, trade, and colonization, English spread to every corner of the globe, becoming a key tool for international communication. But it also meant some local languages weren't used as much. In many regions, the dominance of English led to the decline of indigenous languages, as people adopted English for economic and social advancement. In the 1700s, people wanted to make rules for English. As English became more important, people wanted to decide how to use it correctly, what words meant, and the rules of grammar. Important dictionaries and grammar books were written to organize the language. Samuel Johnson wrote a very important dictionary in 1755. It not only explained words, but also showed how they were used in writing. Lindley Murray wrote a popular grammar book in 1795. It taught people how to write correct English. These books tried to make rules, but they also showed that English is always changing. By the 1900s, English was a global language. America became powerful, and the British Empire was still big. This made English even more important. It became the language of world discussions, science, and pop culture. But English didn't become exactly the same everywhere. As it spread, it changed and became different in different places. American English sounds different from Caribbean English. These different types of English show how it changes to fit different cultures. English is still changing today. New words appear, old words get new meanings, and grammar changes. English is always changing and surprising us. To really understand language, we need to look at its smallest parts. These parts are like the building blocks of communication, each one playing a crucial role in the larger structure. Think of a big, colorful tapestry. Just as a tapestry is made up of countless threads woven together, language is composed of various elements that interconnect to form a cohesive whole. Each thread is small, but together they make a beautiful design. Similarly, each sound and word in a language might seem insignificant on its own, but when combined, they create something meaningful and intricate. Language is like that, made of sounds and meanings. These sounds are the phonetic elements, and the meanings are the semantic components that give depth to our communication. Linguists are like scientists who study language. They delve into the intricacies of how we produce and understand speech, exploring the rules and patterns that govern our linguistic abilities. They look at how sounds make words, analyzing the phonetic structures and the way our vocal cords and mouth shape these sounds. How words get their meanings, studying the etymology and evolution of language over time. And how words make sentences. They examine syntax, the set of rules that dictates how words are arranged to convey clear and coherent messages. Language has rules, just like a tapestry has a pattern. These linguistic rules ensure that our communication is structured and understandable. These rules tell us how to put sounds, words, and sentences together. Grammar, phonetics, and semantics all play a part in this complex system. When we understand these rules, we see how amazing language is. It opens up a world of possibilities for expression and understanding. It's not just for sharing information, it's a powerful and beautiful system. Language connects us, allowing us to share our thoughts, emotions, and stories with others, enriching our lives in countless ways. Let's look at how English is built. Language is made of sounds. Phonemes are the smallest sounds that change meaning. P and B are different phonemes. Pat and bat mean different things. Phonemes make morphemes, the smallest parts of words, with meaning. Cat and dog are morphemes. Prefixes like un and suffixes like ed are also morphemes. Words make phrases and clauses, which make sentences. Sentences are complete thoughts, usually with a subject, verb, and sometimes an object. Syntax is the study of how sentences are put together. These rules help us make sentences that make sense. English grammar has changed a lot. Old English used lots of word endings to show how words work together. Modern English uses word order and little words like of and the. Old English nouns had different endings depending on their job in the sentence. Modern English doesn't do that anymore. We use word order instead. Because of this, word order in modern English is more important. Old English was more flexible. Even though grammar has changed, the basic parts of language are still the same. Etymology is the study of where words come from. It's like being a detective. Experts look at old writings, language patterns, and how cultures mix to find the surprising stories of words. Think about the word salary. We use it to mean money we get for work. But it comes from the Latin word for salt money, because Romans sometimes paid people with salt. Etymology isn't just for fun. It helps us understand language and how cultures are connected. Every word has a story. Etymology is like a language adventure. English has lots of words from Latin and French. These two languages have had a profound impact on the development of English over the centuries. From everyday vocabulary to specialized terms in various fields, the influence is undeniable. More than half of our words come from these languages. This means that when we speak English, we are often using words that have traveled through time and space, evolving from Latin and French roots. Latin came to England with Christianity. When the Roman Empire spread Christianity across Europe, Latin became the language of the church and religious scholarship. Words like altar, priest, and sacrament are from Latin. These terms were essential for religious practices and ceremonies, embedding Latin deeply into the fabric of English. Latin was also important for school, law, and government in the Middle Ages. Scholars, lawyers, and officials used Latin for writing and communication, ensuring its continued influence. Then in 1066, the Normans from France took over England. This event, known as the Norman Conquest, brought a significant shift in the English language. French became the important language, and we got lots of French words for law, government, the military, and fancy things. Words like court, judge, army, and feast entered English, reflecting the new social and political order. Latin and French changed English grammar too. The structure of sentences and the way we form words were influenced by these languages. English used to have lots of word endings, but French made it simpler. The complex system of inflections was reduced, making English more streamlined and easier to learn. Latin and French made English better, giving us more words and ways to express ourselves. The rich vocabulary and flexible grammar we have today are a testament to the enduring legacy of these languages. English loves to borrow words. It takes words from other languages through trade, wars, people moving, and cultures mixing. This makes English have lots of interesting words. We got tea from Chinese, ketchup from Malay, and pajamas, bungalow, and shampoo from India. Algebra, algorithm, and zero came from Arabic. When Europeans explored the world, they found words like canoe and banana and kangaroo. Borrowing words makes English better, not worse. It shows how English changes and grows. We've seen how English changed from simple beginnings to a global language. Like a river changing over time, English has been changed by many things. Wars, people moving, new technology, and different cultures. English today is a mix of all these things. It has words from Anglo-Saxon, Norse, French, Latin, Greek, and many more. Every word has a story to tell. English is great because it mixes all these languages together. The story of English isn't just about language. It's about human history. It's about people moving, wars, trade, exploration, and how people connect and share stories. Language helps us communicate, but it also tells us who we are, remembers our past, and shows how creative people are. We use language to share our thoughts, feelings, and ideas. English shows us that language is always changing, just like people and culture. English is amazing, and so is our ability to communicate and connect using words. English is very important today. It's used all over the world for science, technology, business, and talking between countries. But the future of English is still unknown. It will keep changing because of globalization, technology, and how people interact. English being a global language is good and bad. It helps people communicate, but it can also make things harder for people who speak other languages. We need to use English to connect with people, not separate them. We should celebrate all languages and cultures. Language helps us connect with the world, share our stories, and create our future together.